then I think at that point in time, I went into the wilderness. In my mind, and this happened many years later, the thing that happened that night, because Rich really never did change. I mean, I loved Rich, but in the end, he was kind of like one of those proverbial tossed on the waves. He would get high and then he'd get low. Not high, but maybe so. I don't know. But he'd have his highs and then he'd have his lows, and he'd get all repentant and kind of come back to it. For me, it was always just like. Granted, when I went into my wilderness, which, what is it again, 2026? I'm coming up on it'll probably be another few years, but I will have been in my wilderness for about 40 years. Pretty soon. It's kind of irony when you think about it. But, just the fact that so few people could really think outside the box that I talked about in my first video. Is like, I can't really tell anybody until this thing came along, until that YouTube thing came along. I thought, there's this big push right now. I'll get to the second half of my life a little later. I kind of maybe already did when I talked about the dream that I woke up from. I'll probably tell that dream at some point in time, but of the churches that I went to, I never when I went into them felt that this is real. I mean, yeah, the people that were going there, I think they were, I do believe, for the most part, people that believe. And I wrote this in my description of this YouTube channel. My goal here is not to say anything that makes somebody lose their faith. My goal here is to tell what I've learned over these 40 some odd years. I mean, all the way back to the very beginning. My testimony and the things that have happened to me, they are elements of my life that will never go away. The night that the phone call happened, that I said the prayer and then saw Jesus in the clouds the next morning and burned my past and all of that, that has stuck with me. When, I kid you not, so many people that I have known growing up in every level of belief, from the traditional Christian to myself, the deep thinker. I consider myself a very deep thinker. I sit and I think. It's like, well, that doesn't make sense. Well, what can I piece together that does make sense? And those are the stories that I want to tell. I sit and, I write in my phone, anytime I have a thought, it's like, well, what about that? And then I'll go and do some research, or I'll think about it. A couple of times I've had some dreams since having kind of started with that wake up screaming dream, but dreams that were so stinking real that was like, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. And whether or not it, and I'll say it this way because, I plan on, bringing out a Bible. This is a Bible. And saying stuff. But we have made the Holy Bible God in a lot of ways. A lot of people say, oh, no, we haven't. Oh, but yes, you have. And they consider it infallible, when, in fact, there are how many versions of it? the earliest fragments that we have of the New Testament only go back to about 150 AD, and that's almost 120 years from when Jesus walked the earth. And the oldest that we have of anything Old Testament, even though it's supposed to go back to Adam and Eve, is about 800 or 900 BCE. So we have not the Holy Bible that we have, and this is where I'll end it, I guess. The Holy Bible we have, and this is the reason why I think this is important to say, because I don't know. I mean, I watch YouTube videos where people are just like, "Oh my gosh, that verse is missing. Why is that verse missing?" And then they'll look, it's in this Bible, so they took it out of this Bible, and she's all freaked out because that particular verse. Is the verse that I'm thinking of right here that had to do with that particular video is the verse that says this type only comes out with much prayer and fasting or something. I forget the actual verse number, but it was verse 21 of some book, and Jesus basically supposedly said that, and she says, "Why did they take it out of my Bible?" Well, when she showed in her little video, it said 21 and then had a letter next to it that would have pointed her over there. It says, "This verse not found in some earlier manuscripts," whatever. I didn't look. I mean, she didn't ever get to that point. I didn't look in my Bible to see if my Bible had it, but neither here nor there. The point that I'm making is that the Holy Bible that we have, we made it holy. We gave it chapters and verse numbers, and it's all based upon documents that don't even go back as to the time that they were written. We don't have those documents. So why do people believe? For the most part, I mean, the way I look at it, I believe because somebody called our house at 1:30 in the morning saying that God told him to call. And it changed my life. And because it changed my life, I can't deny that. I mean, I can't, it's impossible for me to deny it. But as somebody who's one of those that looks at everything, maybe I should have, no, it probably would have been a bad idea for me to go to cemetery, as I call it. Because that would just, I would have made me into another parrot. And I know some people, I mean, we have family friends that, that's their mission in life. And like I say, there's nothing that I can say that should disrupt anybody's true faith. If they have had an experience, then they have had that experience. But my thinking, my belief, having seen so many people in my life that can just so easily discard that, I mean, well, did you really have an experience? I mean, if you can, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't even think any of them know that we don't have scriptures that go back to, the time that Jesus was, when Matthew was supposedly writing his gospel and John was writing his, and, Luke and all of the other writers, the whole book of Acts, and, the earliest fragments of those verses that we have only go back to 150 AD or CE, depending upon how you want to say it these days. But we have that book, and I do believe that there's truth in that book. But I also believe, and this is probably the thing that really kind of irritates most people, makes them run to the hill, is that I don't believe that book in and of itself is inerrant. I don't believe, and I will get into it. I'm not going to get into it now. You'll have to tune in to see why I think that. this might be the last video you watch because of that. And that's okay. Because I don't want to scare anybody. If fear is your motivation for being a Christian, a fear of something, fear, then that is not of God, because God is not a God of fear. Oh, well, it does say that the fear of God is, that is a totally different. It's like the word love in the Bible. We've got agape love, we've got Philadelphia love, and we've got the what's the other one? Help me. Oh, eros, or what we get erotic from. The love of God is greater than anything that you can do in your life. And that's what Jesus came to do. And to prove, no greater love has a man that he lay down his life for his brethren. And we have people now, especially now, it's like they have absolutely no problem crucifying people. I mean, I heard something recently of a pastor, and maybe it was somebody else in his group, maybe they were both pastors, and they were just talking about some political figure right now, and they're just the gospel is far from them. But they use the term Christian as who they are, but there's nothing Christian in anything they say or they do, really. And so that was really the impetus for me to even make this channel in the first place, is I really feel that a lot of what mankind does to his fellow neighbors and whatnot is based upon that holy Bible. They find, there's a verse that says the letter kills, but the spirit gives life. If you use that book as a weapon, it's a powerful weapon. And I don't think it should be a powerful weapon. It should, if there's anything about that book and the stories that were told in, is to give us some peace. I don't know. Moses supposedly wrote a lot of the original books of the Bible, but there is absolutely no archaeological evidence that says that. Nothing. You can go search right now and you will not find anything that says there's anything available of what was written in the Old Testament before, like I said, 800 or 900 BCE. It's not there. But we've got it. And there are theories that I've heard people say, the scribes, they would write one word and then they'd take it from it. Because the media that we used back then did not last. So the reasons we don't have anything that's really old is because it just would turn to dust. So, it doesn't really surprise me that we don't have really old documents. But how well over the course of centuries has that been translated, and how much of it was just stories that people told and then told and then told and then told and then told, and over and over and over again, and then somebody wrote it down at some point in time and put books and chapters and verse numbers, and and sometime around, like I said, about 400 AD, they canonized it and said, "This is thus saith the Lord." And I do believe there are parts in it that probably were inspired. I believe a lot of music is inspired. I hear people singing songs, and I watch movies. I go, man, those guys got it nailed. I mean, that just anywho. Like I said, the goal here is not to send somebody off the deep end. It's more to say, this is it's to say that the God that you believe in doesn't make any sense, but here's an example of what I think does make better sense. And that's hopefully, as not being a Bible scholar, I will do my best to say what I think I've learned over these past 44 years of study and life and all of that to bring me to where I'm at today. And I do believe God is speaking to me. I don't, there's a part of me that just has always wondered why the heck did he put me through all of that stuff to, the stuff I have lived through is just like quite deep, quite a lot of it, but quite challenging, and some of it is just I've just had this brain. Anybody that knows me is like, they can come up and ask me just about anything, and I'll probably have an answer. I mean, it's if I don't know something, I'll tell them, but it's just kind of there's. I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but I do ask myself quite often. It's like, why me, Lord? Why me? Maybe, like I said last time, so I could put it on tape. And the other part of this is that, my mom, she got dementia. Her mom got Alzheimer's. My dad, he got Parkinson's. And every time they did, I thought to myself, how great it would have been had they had videos of themselves that they could have watched and maybe triggered some memories, bring parts of. And so when I started my first YouTube channel, a little over a year ago, it was one of the things in the first videos I watched there is that channel's What's Roger Doing Now. And I basically said, I'm doing this for my posterity at the very least. I can make these videos and I can post them. Maybe it'll help somebody. Maybe it'll make some people angry. But at the very least, my wife or whoever is taking care of me is like, oh, we're going to put you on TV tonight, Roger, and you can watch yourself. I look, drool coming out. It's like, that's me. Anyway. All right. Well, this is the second video, and I'll get into the meat and potatoes in the next one, but I decided I would probably do this. This is going to take some editing, and I really do believe, like a lot of characters in the world through our past, they get used. And I have always wanted to get used, but, the only thing I could ever really think to get used for is fixing your brakes or putting in a new hot water tank or building a room in your basement or whatever. All the various hands-on skills that are working on your computer and video editing and photoshopping and all of the various things that I have picked up over my 65 years here on this planet. So, thanks for watching. And the meat and potatoes video will come up next. All right, thanks. Have a good day. Bye.